Good morning, everybody. I will call to order the Marin Water Communications and Water Efficiency Committee meeting and special board meeting of May 15th, 2024. Terry, if we could have a roll call, please.
Yes, good morning.
And Terry, before we do that, if I may, we do have one of our directors who is seeking to attend under the emergency circumstances exception identified in the Brown Act. And before we do a formal roll call, we can request that the board take action on this item as an urgency matter. Director Schmidt, did you want to make a couple of comments about your circumstances for us?
Yeah, I'm just suffering from a very severe cold that I didn't want to expose my fellow board members and attendees to. So that's why I'm seeking to join virtually here today.
And no one of 18 years or older in the room with you?
No, there is not.
Okay, so if there's a motion, a second, and then the board can vote.
So moved. Second. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Director Larry Russell,
Aye.
Director Matt Sampson,
Yes.
Director Schmidt,
Aye. Here.
Vice Chair Smith,
Here.
and Chair Kush.
Here.
And then we'll do the roll call. Director Russell?
Here.
Yeah, that was the vote.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
he did.
Oh.
Okay. Yes.
we'll change those to yes.
Sorry.
Director Russell,
Here.
Director Sampson,
Here.
Director Schmidt,
Here.
Vice Chair Smith,
Here.
and Chair Kush.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay. Do we have a motion to adopt today's agenda?
Motion to adopt the agenda. Second.
Any public comments on the agenda, Terry?
There are none. For the adoption of the agenda, there are none.
Okay, then if we could have a vote, please, to adopt our agenda.
Yes. Director Russell,
Aye.
Director Sampson,
Yes.
Director Schmidt,
Yes.
Vice Chair Smith,
Aye.
and Chair Kush.
Aye.
Thank you.
The next item is public comments on items that are not on our agenda.
There are none.
Okay, then we'll move to our regular agenda items, starting with 4A, which is approval of our committee and special board meeting minutes from February 28, 2024. Do we have any public comments on our previous meeting minutes?
There are none.
Then do we have a motion to approve our previous meeting minutes?
So moved. Second.
Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Director Russell,
Aye.
Director Sampson,
Yes.
Director Schmidt,
Yes.
Chair Smith,
Aye.
Vice Chair Kush.
Aye.
Thank you.
Agenda item 4B is our water efficiency program and proposed changes to incentives and policy. Welcome, Paul and Carrie.
Good morning, Chair Kush and members of the committee. Paul Sellier, Water Resources Director. Just a couple comments this morning by way of introduction for the next couple items. We had a nice workshop a couple weeks ago, maybe right at the beginning of May, on the Water Efficiency Master Plan, and staff benefited from the discussion that the board had on that particular plan. Notwithstanding, some of the complexities that were raised during that discussion, we felt in particular that it was important that we address a couple of those questions that came up around comparison of water efficiency to and on a sort of apples to apples basis with water supply projects. And our finance team are working toward that end to address those questions that the board had, and they'll be bringing that material to the finance committee on the 23rd, I believe, of May. So coming next week, I think, we'll have that information for you specifically on the sort of apples to apples comparison on cost of water efficiency as a water supply measure. And so today our focus then is on kind of keeping things moving with respect to the master plan. I think we had a nice discussion around incentives in general. And it seems that they're fairly simple in terms of the changes that we're proposing to make with respect to the incentives. And there seemed to be good agreement among the board on those. And so that's why those are in an item today as well. Further discussion on the policy item that the board had was similarly fairly straightforward, and we felt it was important that we keep things moving and wanted to bring those today to you as a review and refer. But of course, if there are other directions that you would like us to take, we're happy to do so in respect to those two items. And then the last item, Carrie, and I'll be handing this off to Carrie, who can speak to these in some more detail, will be some information on the grant that we received through Sonoma Water. So that's a nice boost to our finances, and so look forward to any comments you have on that. So with that, I'll hand it over to Carrie.
Thank you, Paul. Good morning, Board. Carrie Pollard, Water Efficiency Manager. So as Paul mentioned, there's really two action items that we're discussing within this first, or two actions within this first item. They're around incentives and policy. So we're going to start with incentives. The proposal is to sunset our toilet rebate program and our clothes washer rebate program. We've seen very low participation in these programs, and we've seen high saturation. Staff feels that the funds and the resources assigned to these programs are better utilized elsewhere within our water efficiency program as a whole. The other change to our incentives is adding a custom rebate program for our non-residential single-family customers that take actions to install water-saving devices, and the district will pay them a rebate to do so. So there's been no changes to these programs following that May 1st workshop. And so this is a review and refer item. We're considering that bringing this item back either on May 1st or June 4th, because we feel like they're ready to roll. We want to get customers notified that these rebates are potentially ending. We want to get our applications together so they can start on the beginning of the fiscal year, right? So we've got a little bit of work to do, which is why we're kind of trying to keep this moving now. So that's the first item, is the incentive changes. The second item is the policy changes. So there's two pieces of policy changes here. The first is our fixture standards update. So that's aligning our current fixtures that are embedded within our code to the Cal Green standards. And the second piece of the fixture standards update is updating the commercial kitchen equipment standards to align with the Consortium of Energy Efficiency, who develops standards like this for kitchens, for commercial kitchens. The second policy piece is the gray water ordinance update. What staff's proposing here is to maintain the applicability of the current gray water ordinance. What that means is the threshold that would require someone to comply with the ordinance would be new construction and a substantial remodel. But the real change that we're looking at here is adding options. So not just saying you have to do gray water, but saying you can do gray water or install low water use landscaping in 100% of the project area with a minimum of 500 square feet, or utilize recycled water. We did get comments back from the board at the May 1st meeting to remove the rainwater harvesting system option. And we've done that, right? Because we want to ensure that the options have a similar output of water savings kind of across the board, regardless of what type of option those customers choose. So those are the main changes. Again, this is a review and refer item. We do need to coordinate with legal on the development of the ordinance, because it will require adoption of an ordinance and actual red line code changes. So we wanted to keep this moving again. So we don't anticipate this coming back to the board on May 21st, but in the next meeting or so for the board's formal consideration, if approved today. So with that, I'd be happy to take any questions on incentives or policy.
Thank you, Carrie. Board questions and comments regarding our incentives and policies for water efficiency. Monty, do you want to start?
I have no comments at this time.
Thanks, Monty. Larry?
The only one, what you're proposing is fine with me, but the only one that I have is, we got an email about hot water recirculation. I don't think the proposal that she's making is viable. The reason is that EPA strongly recommends never drinking from the hot water side. So when you recirculate the hot water into the cold water, the first shot is going to be recirculated hot water. But I think we should take a look at that if we haven't already. And I think you'll recall I discussed Salinas, who has that ordinance, but then had this huge problem with erosion corrosion because there were no pumps that were small enough to go into a regular sized house. I don't know if that problem's been addressed yet by the manufacturers. It hasn't come past my desk since then. But it does make sense. I know this morning, getting ready to shave and you run, a couple gallons of water into the drain to get the hot water. So it is an interesting idea. Normally not done in houses less than 4,000 square feet, but that doesn't mean it couldn't be done. So that's my thinking.
If I may respond, that's on our list of items for embedded in the master plan for further consideration, just to do that research and decide whether or not it makes sense. So
Okay.
thank you for the comments.
So just to be clear, Carrie, we will be coming back to hot water recirculation. It's not part of the proposed
You're correct.
changes that we're discussing
It's not
today,
part
but
of
a good thing
today's
to be looking at going forward. Thank you. Thanks, Larry. Jed?
Yeah, thank you. I'm curious about your thoughts on the value of the ordinance that we're doing. Like, how much do we really think we're gonna save by doing this and forcing folks to implement what we are telling them to do? It didn't seem like a lot to me for water savings, and it seemed like potentially a lot for construction. Similarly, to me, I think we talked a little bit more at the last meeting about how we could think about increased investment in turf replacement and potentially increased investment in irrigation efficiencies. To me, those are the best bang for the buck by far. And focusing on customers who use the most in those areas would be extraordinarily important. And so I guess my overall question that does relate to both of those is, how can we leverage our money and our resources and your team to be the most efficient possible in water efficiency?
Sure. I think the changes we're suggesting today are making incremental improvements to the overall program. And I think you'll see on the next item, we are proposing an increase to our rebate using our turf rebate using grant funding. So we're trying to make these improvements kind of as they make sense and as we do the analysis. And I think that as far as the policy piece and the overall savings, we're moving the marker with these new constructions, installing low water use landscaping. And I think that that's where you're going to see the majority of folks comply with this program. And it is 100% of their project area. In addition, they will need to go through landscape plan review. And so there's all these touch points, right? We're just trying to move in the right direction. And it is a vast improvement over the gray water requirement where we're seeing folks just get out of it. And we'll continue to analyze and track participation and feedback from customers who go through this so that we have a better understanding. And, we may bring back additional improvements down the line as we understand more of what these changes really impact.
Okay, I think we had a first and a second at the last meeting to look at whether and how we could potentially increase investment in turf replacement and irrigation and outdoor uses of water. And it seems like you have a proposal that you're asking us to refer and in essence approve. And what I'm most curious about is, how'd you get that number and why not more? Why not less? Like, where's the sensitivity analysis about the best use of our cash to help save water?
I think we're getting there, because today what was selected, right? It was a really good discussion, as Paul noted, and there's a lot more coming. So today was, I would call, like what you're suggesting, there's efficiency and there's effectiveness, right? Efficiency of resources and effectiveness in driving down consumption in a way. So today is kind of the efficiency side. It's cleaning up these two incentives that have generally, we're in the free rider kind of arena with those. And it's modifying a policy that hasn't really worked. And sometimes you got to try it. Hasn't really worked. And it takes disproportionate staff time for very marginal gain. So today is kind of efficiency. And we'll be talking to you, as Paul noted, this coming finance, about a different way to look at water conservation costs and an apples to apples. And we have other incentive programs, and including looking at enhancement of the cash for grass and turf replacement. So today is a bit narrow, but it's somewhat foundational for where we're going.
So we haven't approved a master plan yet, right?
Correct.
So it's been like a year. The goal was to have that done by December. Then we were told it's gonna be done in the first quarter this year. And now we're just making incremental progress and it's May and we're not sure when it's gonna happen again.
Well,
So-
we are. I'm not sure where you're going, but most importantly to me is
I want
we're
more
moving
more than
forward, we're
incremental
being
progress.
responsive to the board, and that's what we're trying to do here. It's not perfect, but I think we have a good plan in terms of process, and we're looking for kind of substance in terms of feedback from the board.
Okay, well, my substantive feedback would be the same as last time. I'd love to see a sensitivity analysis about how we can invest more or less, or how you got your numbers for this, for incremental gains in turf replacement and outdoor irrigation efficiencies. I would imagine, given everything that we've been doing, that's the critical focus for us in your group. And so I'd like to see like a real plan with real teeth that can have a massive impact on us, not just in drought, which is important because that's where it's effective. So that's your baseline, but how we can go forward and drive that as what I would think of what a master plan is. And it's been a year and I know you guys got it.
So,
you have the smarts.
we hear you and we'll bring that. And I think next week, finance will be a good start for how to do that. And it's an important
Okay,
piece.
I'm
as
sorry,
we
I'm
bring
not
it.
trying to be a pain. It's just, every time I brought this up, it's like the next meeting, we're gonna do it, and it doesn't seem to happen. So I don't know how to support this without that. No. The ideas are nice, but I think we can do so much more.
Yeah, Matt, do you want, any thoughts?
Sure, thank you. So first off, thank you very much for taking the thoughts and comments from the workshop we did on the 1st of May and putting them in here. And I think these two efforts can run in parallel. And so I think that the importance of looking at outdoor irrigation, specifically turf replacement, is going to be critical to really having a measurable reduction in water use for conservation. But at the same time, these policies that you're bringing forward are stopping the behavior that got us to where we're at right now, so that we don't have to go back and address more properties further on down the road. And I think that's very important too, to put this stake in the ground now and understanding that we're living in a climate that no longer can support lush, green, non-native vegetation everywhere, or non-functional turf, depending on how you want to call it. But let's stop it now, I think, and then give people some options on how they want to do that, or at least give them, a couple of things how they want to do that, so that we don't have to play catch up down the road. We can adjust just a known amount right now. So supporting Jed's comments about bringing the turf peeps back. Yes, I think that's critical, but I want to focus on this policy today because I think it's important to move that forward. The one question I did have, and I apologize if I missed it, but the details on the gray water system in terms of being able to opt out of it again, just how that looks for this current version.
So currently, the ordinance that's in place that we enforce allows for a stub out, which is, right, just from the laundry system out the wall, no actual irrigation plumbing. A simple system, a laundry landscape system, or a complex system. The only time someone can be allowed to, have a non-feasible site is if they have a justification aligning with the plumbing code. What this ordinance is proposing is to not allow the stub out. And then if they have a justification, they say they can't do it because of plumbing code, we say, well, great, we have, this landscape option as well. So they can choose what's right for them.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Matt. And yeah, I think, Jed, maybe you're reflecting a concern that we're starting to focus on, which is that there are a lot of different activities under our water efficiency planning that potentially are not as effective, as Ben is saying. And I think, we've discussed pretty much, the lack of impact something like the gray water ordinance is having and is likely to have going forward. And maybe there's a concern that we're spending a lot of time talking about these somewhat marginal activities when the real focus is on turf replacement. But I agree with Matt that I think, that there is an important message we can send with respect to the landscaping ordinance. Carrie, can you remind us on how our current landscaping proposal aligns or doesn't align with what the state is considering?
Yeah, so the state has, basically the difference is applicability. It's not the requirements. We require any new landscape essentially that pulls a building permit to have some level of review by district staff, right? So if a customer goes to Corte Madera and pulls a building permit and they say they're not touching their landscape, then we don't engage with them. That doesn't come to us. But if they acknowledge that they are doing anything with their landscape, whether it's a new build or a remodel, it comes to staff for review. The difference is the state has a threshold for new construction of 1,000 square feet. So if you build a home and you only have 500 square feet, they say, we're not going to look at that. And if you do a remodel, it's 2,500 square feet. So ours is more stringent to ensure that we have eyes on all new landscapes as they're coming through if they acknowledge that they're doing landscaping as part of their project.
Okay, so yeah, so to confirm, we're setting a higher bar than what the state is doing. But again, I think to iterate, I think that is sending a message, as Matt noted, regarding what it's going to take to live sustainably here in Marin. So I know we need to open this up for public comments, but I do think that the landscaping piece of this feels very important. I'm not sure what we're gaining out of it with the gray water ordinance going forward, but unless there's a really strong push to take that off the table, I don't know that I'm going to make it. But
Can I just a clarifying question? Because we talk a lot about district resources or money. The policies themselves, those aren't a fiscal impact to the district. It's just beyond the developer or homeowner doing. Okay, thank you.
It's enforcement would be the impact.
How many people are on your team?
We have 7.
And what do they do?
We have myself as a manager, we have 1 admin person, and all the rest are essentially field staff. We have 1 project manager that kind of oversees a lot of the design work of implementation of programs. But for the most part, the rest of them are all field work.
And
staff.
field work, meaning like checking on,
Like going to people's
development.
homes, conducting caps, doing plan reviews, doing water waste researching water waste reports, doing plan reviews.
Right.
All of this.
and a lot of the effectiveness, I think, of this effort comes from communications, right? It comes from reaching out to folks and getting them to change, or how do you measure effectiveness of your team? Or is it just a workload?
It's workload primarily. It's customers coming in. So of course, outreach and engagement with our customers is what drives customers to our incentive programs. So that is key, absolutely. But we have other programs, just meeting with the community, going to events, school education, taking school kids out, right? So all of those are other pieces where we have touch points where we're just bringing folks along with the ethos of water efficiency within the community.
we don't have any other board discussion, then we'll open it up for public comment.
Yes, we have 2, Mr. Phil Sauter and Ed Jameson.
Good morning. I really appreciated the presentation and the comments around it. I think the board is really zeroing in on the critical issues, and thank you for that. As we begin to review programs and budgets for meaningful conservation programs, we know a couple of things for sure. One is that Marin Water customers have learned the importance of indoor water conservation. We average about 50 gallons per day of indoor water, which compares favorably with other Northern California water districts. The other thing we've learned is that we've not made the same progress in terms of outdoor water use. At least some of us haven't. We currently use 60% of our potable water outdoors, and some customers use much more than that. I'd like to once again flash the heat map that shows where the heavy residential water users live. They're mostly the pink dots in eastern and southern Marin. These are folks who are using more than 400 gallons a day, likely from outdoor irrigation using potable water. These are folks who are going to give us the biggest bang for the buck when we create incentives for them to stop wasting potable water outdoors. The problem is this map is 5 years old. We don't know what this map would look like after 2 wet years. We don't know what percentage of our summer water they're actually using. We don't know whether they're rebounding. We don't know what incentives would be enough to change their behavior. We don't know how close they are to a current or planned purple pipe system. There are enough signals to tell us that these folks are an important part of our incentive program, but we don't yet know how important or how much it will cost to reach them. So once again, I'll put in a request that we get to see a redo of this map with the underlying data. By better understanding the important segments of our user base, we can develop incentives that can reach them. Or we may find that there is sufficient overlap with our current and projected recycled water distribution system that we could leave their water usage just where it is, but provide them with an equivalent and more reliable source of non-potable water for their landscapes. Without this level of understanding and specificity, I think the committee will have trouble forwarding an effective incentive plan to the full board. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ed Jamison, please.
Yes, thanks. This was an excellent recap. In the last meeting, there was general, but not total, agreement by the board that the gray water ordinance does not make sense, laundry to landscape in particular. Adding an option to apparently totally give up choice of landscaping is not an acceptable option. Forcing customers to do something that only had 23 installs last year under the gray water ordinance at absurd cost per acre foot does not make sense. And the state already has strict limits on new construction landscaping. The gray water ordinance should just be rescinded and not just replaced with a slightly different version. The district's attention should be on encouraging turf replacement, installation of irrigation controllers, and equally important, communications outreach. Thank you.
Thank you. There are no further speakers.
Do we have a motion then to refer the proposed changes to the district water efficiency incentives and water efficiency policies to a regular bi-monthly board meeting for approval?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, then we're not voting on these referrals. Okay, so thanks, everybody. We'll move to agenda item 4C, which is our water efficiency grant funding update.
All right. Once again, Carrie Pollard, Water Efficiency Manager. So the second item we have today is our Water and Energy Efficiency Grant update. This is also a review and refer item. So we'll walk through the presentation here. We'll look at the grant funding, the details of it. We'll look at the pre-award funding that's been approved. We'll talk about the turf conversion grant funding and how we plan on utilizing that, and then wrap up with next steps. So the Sonoma Marin Saving Water Partnership was awarded $2 million from the Bureau of Reclamation based on an application submitted by Sonoma Water back in early of July. It was back in 2022. It was awarded in April of 23. And then we heard just about a month ago that a pre-award submittal is going to be allowed. Basically, it's taking the Bureau a bit of time to get the contract in place, and we don't want to lose out on those savings and utilizing those funds. So I'll talk a bit about that as well. The district is getting $722,000 of that $2 million specifically for our programs, and there's a 55% funding match. So these are the incentive programs that are being funded by the grant. We have clothes washers, toilets, smart irrigation controllers, and turf conversion rebates. You can see the second column there is the amount that the grant is funding for each of those widgets. The third column is the amount of items within number of units within each of those items, and then the total grant funding. These estimates for units were based on a 3-year program. So staff estimated how much participation we thought we would see in the next 3 years and came up with those for our grant submittal. The funding does need to be utilized by September of 2026.
I don't understand.
Yep.
The first two items are the ones that you're proposing to delete.
Yeah, we'll talk,
Okay.
that's a great segue, good observation. So this initial pre-award submittal, which covers installations from April of 23 through 24. When we pull out the numbers of participation, we had anticipated we utilize all the funding for our toilets and clothes washer rebates. So it aligns quite nicely. And I was actually kind of surprised to see our estimates really aligned well with what our projections, what we were anticipating. So, yay for the team on that estimate. Smart irrigation controllers, we're at about 77% just with our pre-submittal. Mind you, so this was supposed to be a 3-year grant, and now it's becoming kind of a 4-year grant because they're allowing us to go backwards. So we plan on expending that in really no time at all. The fourth line item is our turf program. So we are not allowed to do any pre-award submittals for turf because it does disrupt the grounds, right? So we need to do the NEPA exemption, which Sonoma Water didn't anticipate. And so that was a slight oversight on their grant application. But once that gets done, we'll be able to kind of, start utilizing these funds. But that leaves us $685,000 for turf conversion, and that's just the grant portion. So staff's proposing that we utilize these funds by increasing our rebate amounts for both the standard and the best practices rebate. The grant funds 68 cents per square foot. And so the proposal here is just to add that 68 cents onto our current rebate of our standard rebate is at $1.50. This would bump it up to $2.18. And our best practices rebate is $3, and this would bump it up to $3.68. When you look at the standard rebate
Best practices.
best practices, yeah, that's more of a watershed approach to landscaping. So there's additional requirements and parameters to get that additional $3. Things like sheet mulching, installing a rainwater catchment or a rain garden, if you would be applicable, utilizing mostly native plants. So it's really kind of our watershed approach to landscaping incentive, promoting that, best practices of landscaping.
I have one more question.
Sure.
Are any other of the contractors involved in this grant?
All of the other contractors are involved in this grant. So
They all got something.
yeah.
And why is that proportional to what we pay, or how did it get?
No, it's based on what we thought we would use.
I
So
see.
everyone
So
submitted.
They asked.
Yeah. So we're looking, this is an opportunity to increase our rebates to determine whether or not, there's a correlation to increase rebate, increase participation. The majority of customers are going through the standard rebate at this time. And so that's a 30% increase. And so something that will kind of give us a couple of years to look at, or as long as we maintain this level, to look at whether or not that, that impacts participation. So I think it's a good kind of aligns with the intent as mentioned during the previous item. So next steps, Sonoma Water is waiting to finalize, they're working on finalizing their contract with the Bureau, and then they'll develop pass-through agreements with each of the partners, so all of the water contractors. The turf rebate will align with the contract execution, right? So once Sonoma Water has that contract executed, that means that the NEPA work's done, and we can then be able to submit on the work that's done from that date forward. So I'd like to have the increase align with that date. And then finally, this item is a review and refer item for execution of the contract with Sonoma Water through our general manager. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks for an encouraging piece of news there, Carrie. So opening up for board comments, questions. Matt, do you want to start?
No, just no questions, just a comment. Great work on this. Anytime we can get someone else to help pay for conservation efforts is great. Actually, I do have one question. Do you think we'll be able to spend all the turf conversion money?
Yeah, we have 3 years, right? And it's 1 million square feet is our estimate. And I think that aligns with our goals within the plan that we've been talking about. And I think it'll be a push.
Great.
It'll motivate us to get the money spent. We don't want to leave grant money on the table.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Jed?
Yeah, it would be interesting if you can have some level of an A/B test on how effective this kind of additional incremental incentive is. And, if you over promote this more than you did before, which will do, it may be hard to compare. But it would be super interesting if you can be thoughtful about having an apples to apples measurement of the sensitivity here. And I don't know if you want to have incremental incentives or just go all or nothing, or how you match the marketing of what we have been doing previously in the language versus what we're doing now with this new program. I think that will take some good
finesse,
thoughts. Yeah.
I think, so Adrian and I have done some A/B testing in the past. And I think even things like direct marketing to specific customers to see if they end up engaging in the program. Like there's some ways we can probably work through to see what makes sense so that we can document it now and understand it beforehand as opposed to looking back.
Thanks, Jed. Larry?
A couple of things. What percentage is Sonoma retaining out of this grant?
5% is administration of the 2 million.
Overhead, okay. Because they aren't really a direct seller, so I was kind of curious where their role comes in. Las Vegas is now $5 a square foot. And it's my understanding it has worked phenomenally well in Las Vegas. Now, I don't know about the end product they got in Vegas. They could have just left the desert. The desert would look the same to me, but it has been effective. And I'm curious about how you get to the 68 cents.
That's the grant. That's what the Bureau has provided per square
I
footage.
understand that part, but
Right.
I'm talking about how we end up with the total number and not looking to us to grant more money, to invest more money than that number, a higher rebate.
If I understand your comment, are you proposing that we would increase it beyond just the 68 cents?
Yes, I'm asking.
We certainly could. It wouldn't increase our grant funding amount.
No, of course not.
Yeah, what we've looked in the past, and it's, always a question, is there a higher amount that would be a bit of a game changer? Is this linear? Is it,
Well, Vegas obviously thinks there is.
what's that?
Vegas obviously thinks there is.
Yeah, so what we do need to look into it, maybe Carrie's familiar how long that's been going on, because that seems higher than they had been.
Yeah, so what that is focused on their non-functional turf ban. So it's their initial push to convert before the legislation goes into place. So it's very specific users, similar to what LADWP did during the drought, where they offered $7 a square foot for their municipal customers. So it's not your standard residential rebate offering.
But regardless, I mean, thank you. That's interesting. It probably is time to refresh and understand where other folks are. And I do think next week, finance meeting where we're talking about kind of a different way of looking at the cost of conservation and apples to apples could help inform some of this or not. But we'll take a look, because that has come up and it will always come up. So periodically we should understand and think about that, be able to talk about it.
I understand it's always tricky in the middle of budget cycles to change things.
Yeah.
But what I'm thinking about is some kind of a PR release that says, we've got this grant. It's going to allow us to raise our rebate amount and put a push on if you do it in the next 90 days or something like that. The Vegas one, by the way, is all through 24.
Got it.
$5.
Got it. Yeah. So we're going to hear shortly from Adrian on her marketing plans that I believe incorporate the grant aspect, and you'll be able to talk about that.
Well, we're not Las Vegas, but it's an interesting anecdote or story. So the 68 cents came from us, or that was from the government?
Amount from the grant.
I know that was what the incentive was pegged that we could use, and then we figured how much we could get done. Okay, got it.
Correct. So if it's over $1 square, it's 45% of the total up to 68 cents. So if you only offer $1, you're only going to get 55 cents.
So if
You
we had
offer-
offered more, then we actually
Up to
We-
68 cents is the max
Got
that
it.
they'll give. Yeah. So it's $1.50 is what they're matching.
How many square feet total?
It's $1 million
I know
and
that
change.
number, the total. All of it, all the residences added together, how many square feet?
Oh, for our service area? I don't know that off the top of my head.
Yes. 3 million, 5 million, 10 million? Okay, can we have that number the next time we see you?
It's easier said than done, but I can try to pull a number
A
together.
ballpark, a
Sure,
ballpark number.
Sure.
You know,
Yes.
I mean, 60,000 lots and the average lot has 2,000 square feet, you know, whatever. I don't really care about the accuracy of the number, but I'd like to have a base to compare the 1 million to that number.
Good comments, Larry. Thank you. Monty?
I'll just simply say two things. One is, again, this is a great program. It's great that we've, again, brought in money to help us do the things that we would find valuable in doing, even if it purely came out of our own cost centers, because it's cost-effective use of our funds to be able to generate water. And I guess the only thing I would say is that, you know, in order, a million square feet is a great number. It's an ambitious number. And I think to the extent that we're both getting out in our press, the fact that we receive these grants, which is always great news for our community, it would also maybe generate more additional interest. So I'm sure that that we're already planning that, but I think making, you know, getting this out to our customers is a really important first step in getting that momentum to get that 1 million square feet. Thank you for your great work on this.
Keep in mind that the IJ seems to be jumping us on these things. They're getting it, which is a good thing. They're getting it out quicker than we can get it out, or are getting it out. So we need to kind of keep that in mind. I presume this meeting will generate, you know, the last few have been above the fold front page. So I find kind of interesting that they put that much level of interest in it. But so, you know, maybe we can use that. Maybe we can get ahead of it by talking to the reporter and things like that, jump it a little bit, because it's going to come. I mean, they're obviously using our Zoom very effectively, the recorded information. I'm sure they find it to be a wonderful resource.
Great.
Oh, one more question. What are the other contractors offering?
Ours is the highest. The max that anyone else is offering is $1.50 for turf. They're kind of all over the board for all the other items. There's a range.
No, I'm after the turf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not everyone took turf funding. So there's that too.
I presume the more urban ones did, though.
The big ones that have programs that have the opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is a review and refer item.
Yeah, I'll just ask if we have public comments.
Yes, Jack?
I wanted to mention that it may be worthwhile from a financial perspective to compare the cost of the turf replacement subsidy combined with however much the conservation ends up costing MMWD, and then compare that to what increasing the water supply costs, just to get a very clear understanding of how financially effective and efficient turf replacement is.
I think that's what you're talking about, right? Yeah. So the next finance meeting will have that assessment, at least some cut at it.
There are no further speakers.
Yeah, please, Jed.
Sorry, that was an interesting comment that some of the other contractors are not using turf replacement. I'm wondering, let's just say, as we move along here, we're pretty clear we're not going to hit 1 million feet and we're not going to be able to use this money. Can we help support our partners up in Sonoma or other contractors to get it done?
Yeah, that's one of the good things about having this regional effort. So if we have more smart controller money that we need and others didn't utilize it, we could actually, you know, do a little bit of horse trading. So for sure, there's always opportunities with regional efforts like this to.
Great.
I
shift
presume
money.
it's people like Valley of the Moon that don't have the routine Petaluma, MMWD, Santa Rosa lot division. So they got these ranches or whatever, and, you know, grass is probably a very small portion of what they're concerned about.
Okay, then, do we have, thanks, Carrie. Do we have a motion to refer authorization for our general manager to execute the grant agreement with Sonoma Water to a regular bi-monthly board meeting for approval?
Yep. So moved.
Second.
Thanks again, Paul, Carrie. And now we have agenda item 4D, which is an update on our water efficiency outreach activities.
Morning, directors. Adrienne Mertens, Communications and Public Affairs Manager, and getting right into it. So just to review what we'll be talking about today, I will first be doing an overview of our recent outreach campaigns. We've actually wrapped up some of our winter campaigns, some of our spring and kind of early summer campaigns, and have some results on those that we want to share. I've mentioned them several times in past meetings, and now we can look more specifically at the analytics and the performance of those. And then we'll also review upcoming summer outreach plans, and then give an update on our community events schedule, and then review next steps. So first, looking at our outreach campaigns in review. So I wanted to start first by talking briefly about our monthly e-news. We talk about this tool a lot. I reference it a lot. You're familiar with it. You get one at the beginning of each month from Marin Water. We do use a third-party mail service for sending this out. In about 6 months ago, we launched a pop-up window on our website, which shows up in the little corner of the screen, inviting people to sign up for e-news to receive more frequent updates from us. We've checked in on how that tool is performing. We've actually seen about 400 additional subscribers added to our list over the last 6 months. And why that's so great, and we want to keep building on that, is because this has become a very strong tool for us. It remains a very strong tool for us. Our average open rate is still at 55%. We're well above industry standard for like agencies, which is around 42%. And then our March e-news actually had a 60.1% open rate, which is our second highest of all time. We've had e-news in place for the last couple of years. So good all around. And then just a fun little extra note, we did a few months ago submit our e-news for a statewide award competition. And yesterday found out that we took first place. And this competition, it's for all public agency communicators. It's California Association of Public Information Officials, PIOs. So in our world, it's some great bragging rights. And you're not just submitting the piece at its face value, you know, that it's a pretty document, but you actually submit your analytics and what's behind it to show the effectiveness of the communication materials. So that was very exciting for our team.
I have a question. Congratulations.
That's a big
Absolutely.
deal, Adrienne. That's great to hear.
Thank you. Thank you. And congratulations to our full team. It's an effort to get it together each month. So yeah.
But I have another question.
Yeah.
Open rate means looking at it.
Yes,
That's what I'm talking
correct.
about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why? I mean, I think 20,000 is great. Why isn't it 50?
That's a good question. And there's probably a lot more we can do to try to promote the subscriptions. Maybe the question you're getting at too is why aren't we automatically including all of our customers? So email campaigns are an opt-in service. You can't automatically subscribe someone. And so, but there are definitely additional things we can do. I think this is a good reminder to us too, that there's more we should focus on to try to boost those lists. And certainly encourage all of you in talking with customers to invite them if they're really interested in keeping tabs on what's going on in the district to subscribe as well, because that word of mouth is also helpful.
So this means the folks that are using the webpage routinely, or this is actually a separate email?
Yes, no. So this is our e-news. It's sent out. It's an e-blast that goes out once a month, essentially an e-newsletter. And we have a little pop-up screen on the website right now. When you go there, it'll pop up and invite you to subscribe. Yeah. And one thing that's, over 6 months, if you think about our customers, some may be only going to our website once every 2 months, right? If they're paying their bill, if at all, or if there's an issue. And so, the pop-up window has been in place for 6 months. For us, we think it's worth keeping it up for longer because it could take a while for someone to actually come to our site on their own. But there's additional ways that we can look at gaining subscribers outside of just having that on our website. We can proactively communicate out as well. And our bill inserts, which we do sometimes, and on the waterfront, we'll put a QR code on there to invite subscriptions as well. But we could look at doing something directly on the bill as well, to try to gain subscribers.
Or incent them.
Sorry,
Or
say that.
incent them.
Oh. Right.
As I recall, and I could be incorrect on this, you can pay your bill without opening the webpage. You can
That's
just
right.
set it
Because our website sends you
automatic,
to the
right?
billing payment site. Yeah. Mhm.
Pretty sure that's what we do. And
Yeah.
so that doesn't even take us that way. Of course, we have
Right.
excess MMWD news at my house, so that's not an issue.
Glad to hear that.
Well, congratulations on the recognition from California Association. What we already knew and validated what we've already experienced. You're the best, and keep it up. And all the more we can support your efforts for water efficiency and other. Proud to have you on the team.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And certainly cannot take all the credit again on that newsletter. Efficiency estimator. So we've talked about this tool here with the board a few times now. This really served two purposes. It helps calculate customers' bill, but also we've used it to help customers gain a better understanding of where they stand with water use in their household. By giving them some baselines. And so today is actually the last day that the efficiency estimator will be online. We had plans that we would retire it May 15th. Happens to coincide with today's meeting. And it'll turn on again next year when we get into the winter water months. But it was a good time to check in just on how this tool has done. And we didn't just build the tool and put it on the website. We did a lot of work to get the word out about it, make sure our customers were interacting and using it. So we did an e-news feature article when we launched it in February. We ran a special bill insert in the March and April bill cycle. And then we did a direct postcard mailing, which happened in 4 different mail drops in March and April. And then we did 2 different month-long targeted digital ad campaigns, one in February and March and one in April and May. And so first looking more closely at our targeted direct mail postcards. So mid-March, we sent the first round to residential customers who were inefficient users. That was approximately 8,000 households. Then in April, we sent about 21,000 postcards split into 3 different mail drop dates to our Opportunity Zone customers. And then the front side of that postcard highlighted the efficiency tool, had a QR code to drive people to the website, also listed out some other actions folks could take to increase their water savings, including mentioning some of our rebate programs that were available. And then the backside had information on our conservation assistance program, our CAP appointments, included both the website for signing up for an online appointment as well as the phone number directly on the card. So looking at conversions for the performance of the postcard during March and April, when we were heavily campaigning, we had 30 CAP appointments booked. We look at how that compared to the year before during that same time period where we weren't doing this super bolstered outreach in the same way. And we had 9. In scheduling the appointments, we talked with the water efficiency team, 10 individuals who scheduled appointments specifically mentioned the mailer when they were booking their CAP appointments of those 30. And then some good news, our CAP appointments are currently booked solid through mid-June. And talking with our water efficiency staff, typically this is a busier time of year, irrigation's starting to go on, people are thinking about outdoor needs as well. And so we do see things to be busier, but it's promising to see that we're booked solid.
Question.
Yes.
What's Opportunity Zone?
Yeah, so opportunity, that's a great question. So we had the three different categories: inefficient, opportunity zone, and efficient customer for the estimator tool. And 0 through 40 gallons per person per day in a household was efficient. 41 through 61 gallons per person per day in a household was considered opportunity zone. And then inefficient was 62 and above gallons per day per person.
And the next question is, as I recall, and I don't know the current numbers necessarily, but tier 4s are running about 1,200 connections in the past.
I would look to maybe folks behind me. We would have,
That's what I remember from I don't know if the rate changes affected that, but these are primarily tier 4s.
I would say the bulk of them, and I again would look to Carrie, they helped to pull that data. We're 100, yeah, yes.
Yes. So do we know offhand how many we have done? Because the tier 4s obviously have a huge incentive to do this if they understand it.
Are you asking about how many have done the CAP program?
Yeah, out of the 1,200, let's use my number for a moment.
Yeah, I think we'd have to get back to you on that data,
Okay.
but it's a great question.
Okay.
Yeah, happy to bring that back.
I would suggest perhaps putting some kind of a log on the webpage of who has done this, what percentage has done it. Because I think if they understood it, I mean, it's like silly not to do it. They may not want to do the work, which is fine. They may not want to qualify, but to get the evaluation done, it'd be crazy of them not to do the evaluation, in my thinking. So we should make sure that we're getting the message to them.
We will put some thought to that
Okay.
without completely putting people on blast.
Adrian, can I ask just a clarification question here? You said about 8,000 are in the high water usage.
Yeah.
And then a slide or two later, it says 7,000 in an opportunity zone. So on the graph slide, we actually put out, there's a few slides ahead, but with that, that's 15,000 households within the district. So
Yes,
that
this,
leaves-
the April for opportunity zone, we did 3 different mail drops over 3 weeks. It was 21,000 about households total. So we did 7,000 per mail drop.
Okay, but
Just because we were worried about call volume.
no, understood. That's
Yeah.
helpful because I'm trying to get a percent or just a concept of how many households in the county are below or that in that efficient level already, because it seemed like a big number, but 21,000 instead of 7 changed it. Thank you.
Yeah.
A question, how do we know the results? I understand how they know, but how do we know? When you use the estimator, it's tattling to us too?
Sorry, I'm not sure I'm following your question.
How do we know who fits into which category, what level of efficiency they are, 40 gallons or more?
Yeah, our water efficiency team pulled that from our customer data for our team to then use for the mailing list.
From them using the estimator or just an estimate?
I'm going to let Carrie talk about their process for that.
Yeah, so we assumed 4 people per household and then, yeah, right, and then directed them to the estimator so they could plug in their actual numbers. And that's why that opportunity zone is really kind of a lot of unknown because, then they could reach out to us if they felt that there was actually, an opportunity.
Okay.
Keep going. Okay. All right. So then looking at the targeted digital ads that we did for this campaign, they were served to our residential customers on their mobile devices, on other smartphones, and through web advertising. So if they're shopping online, they're reading the newspaper online or on their phone, you're served ads. And so same kind of concept here. We ran 2 campaigns, one that was mid-February to mid-March and another early April to first week of May. And then, so for the first campaign, for this one, we actually just did kind of the entire service area. We're able to give zip codes and general guidelines to make sure we stay within our footprint and our ads are served to the right people. We are able to target to residential and residential single family home and duplex customers. and saw 430,020 ad impressions. That's how many times it was served to someone on a device. From that, we saw 1,861 actually directly clicked on the ad to go to the tool. And then we had 812 view throughs. Those are people that saw the ad, didn't click the ad, but later went to the website on their own. And then that's a 0.62% engagement rate, which in this world is high. We're at 8.86 times the national average. And our second campaign, similar in results, did slightly better. This one we targeted a little more using our mailing lists, kind of that same footprint. We focused just on our high water users and our opportunity zone households to serve the ads, and saw a little better direct ad clicks, a little better view through, and better overall engagement, but not by a whole lot.
How much do they cost? Roughly,
The campaign,
well, or the ad, whatever way, per user, whatever you want to put it.
yeah, I'd have to go back to the data to get the specific
Like
on
50
that.
cents or 10 cents or
Um,
$5?
It's in the cents, yeah, per ad impression served, yes. And then looking at overall traffic to the estimator tool, and this is actually, so what you saw on the last page, when someone clicks through to go to the estimator, it's not necessarily saying they went through and then did the calculations and did the exercise. They got to the page. This is actually measuring how many people interacted with the calculator and went through the process of calculating their efficiency level. And so you can see through the months, overall performance with a total of over 1,800 users. And sorry, Terry, you could maybe move that box. There you go. So this was a little fun for us. We just wanted to map out what the interactions on our estimator tool looked like over a timeline, and then also chart that with what specific ad campaigns were going on. So the blue line is the estimator tool and all of the interactions it was having when people were using it. The orange line below, we actually also tracked how many people scanned QR codes, which that doesn't start until March, because that's really when QR codes got used. There's a couple early blips. That's only probably because our team was testing it at that time as we were developing the materials. But the blue dot is when we first announced, or the blue star, excuse me, the e-news article introducing the estimator tool. Both pink dots mark the start of each of the digital ad campaigns. The green bar that stretches across the middle shows when the bill insert advertising the estimator tool was running in our customer water bills. And then each of the yellow arrows shows the 4 different mail drops with the postcard that promoted the estimator tool. So the first yellow arrow is when it went to high users, and the last 3 are when it went to opportunity zone households. And really what we get out of this is a lot of effort. You see, as campaigns are kicking off, obviously things spike and then they kind of mellow out, which is what we expect. But really our e-news and our digital ads seem to have our strongest engagement, and even more so than direct mail postcards, which is a little surprising for us. And just something that we'll be mindful of as we move forward and thoughtful about in planning our next campaigns.
Adrian, is there the postcards, is there any way to determine if they have different effects on different consumers? So the postcards to high water users doesn't seem to generate any reaction. However, if you look at postcards to opportunity zone customers, there's some overlap there with the digital ad campaign. But
Yeah.
as you get to the 4th postcard drop, you do see a response. It seems like that
We noticed that too. And it's a lot of assumptions can be made, I think, about that. I think, the one thing with the postcard, you're giving people a URL and a QR code, so they've got to take some additional steps to get there. So if they have the motivation, they're doing that. They're busy, they don't, it's hard to say. But it may not just be enough to go learn how efficient you are. You may need to be dangling more in front of them. And maybe it's, here's the actual thing that you can get from the district, like a different type of advertisement. This was more of an educational awareness campaign, right? You're going to a site to get more information on something. You're not necessarily getting something directly back out of it. And so for some people, that may not be enough to take action.
But I am curious, if we can evaluate the response level among different customer groups, it may tell us something about how those different groups are actually, thinking about conservation and water efficiency. I mean, based on this, and I know the postcard by itself is not going to tell us much, but the first reaction would be high water users are not responding to a message.
Well, I would say, it's 3 times the amount almost of postcards that went out for that opportunity zone. And if you look at the blip past the post high water users, you're seeing close to 20. If you multiply that by 3, you're going to get a pretty similar turnaround. So I think to Adrian's point, there's so many variables here.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, I think it's worth monitoring and thinking about maybe how we can learn more about customers in these ways. Each of those yellow drops, just to make it was, so of the last 3 yellow arrows, it was 7,000 for each of those mailings. Yeah.
I think the other thing you may be seeing here too is that the larger users may not be as sensitive to the value of the action. It's like, whatever. I assume we're still in the ballpark, at least in my house, that the water bill is the lowest bill we get. So even lower now because we don't water the grass.
Mm-hmm.
But, that has to have an impact, I think, on the response from the public that, it's an interesting bill, but it's not something that is driving, especially at the higher end.
Mm-hmm. Good point. Right. All right. So next we're going to talk about our customer success stories. Mentioned these before in our workshop and previous committee meeting as we were just kind of getting them underway. But as a reminder, it's really a collection of stories of real actions that our customers have taken by participating in our programs or on their own to achieve water efficiency at home and greater water savings. And so we host these on our website. We have a special dedicated section for this. We're referencing in a lot of other places too. We just set up a new Cash for Grass page. It's more informational. We're referencing customer success stories on there. And so, people, as they're considering the program, can also hear from others who are really taking action. But in addition to having it on our website, we're also trying to maximize our use of these different stories. And so we're repackaging them and sharing them out through our bill inserts, in our mailers, social media, our e-news, and paid advertising as well. And so to look at some of the conversions from those. So we've done 3 where we've repackaged them and tried to maximize that use. So first, Anne's story, that was the first one we ran. Anne from San Anselmo. She actually took advantage of our Flume Smart Home Water Monitor discount and discovered leaks in our property and was able to achieve water savings. So we ran Anne's story in our January and February bill insert. We also featured it in our December e-news. And we saw on our rebates page, which is what the story ultimately linked to, a 28% year-over-year web traffic growth during the January-February month time period when that was when all of our material was running for this story. And then we saw 26 Flume sales the first day after that December e-news published. And then we had 287 overall Flumes purchased in December through early May. And that's compared to 102 that were purchased in that same time frame in the previous year. And then our next story, Chris's story, he actually used the Flume home smart water monitor as well. And so he probably helped contribute to some of the successes of the overall flumes purchased between December and May. But Chris is from Tiburon, and he was able to cut back his watering by half after working with the flume device, and then also referring to the district's weekly watering schedule to help make adjustments to his irrigation. And so we also actually saw 48 weekly watering schedule subscribers after running Chris's story in our March e-news. And then last, Marty's story, which we've just recently ran. We featured that in a Marin Living advertorial just recently. And that's an e-blast version of Marin Living magazine. They send it out. It is a paid advertisement, though more editorial in content. And we shared her story for that piece. And that goes to Marin Living magazine subscribers. We also featured Marty's story in our May e-news and our June and July bill insert, which we are preparing for now. So that is actually still yet to run. And Marty did a lawn replacement. It was a great story. She has great photos. She was very excited about all this because not just the water savings that she got out of it, but also just kind of personal happiness and satisfaction at completing the project. And she had participated in our Cash for Grass program. And so that's what we linked to. And after Marty's story has run its course in some of our materials already, we've seen 173 visits to the Cash for Grass page. And then this is kind of interesting to look at. So from those 173 that visited Cash for Grass, 62 proceeded to the actual application form. And from that, we've received 2 applications. Now, the Cash for Grass program, it's a decision. It's not something you can just do easily. You know, it's not the same as buying a flume device, just making the purchase quickly. So, you know, people could still come back. We'll continue to monitor how that's going. But it is, I think, interesting to look at how you get the initial push to the site and over time, how they funnel in closer and closer to the decision point and how it narrows down.
Question.
Yeah.
Is the Marin Living free?
Marin Living
Digital subscription?
subscriptions, it is free to subscribe. Yeah. Now, if you want the magazine mailed to your home, that is not the same. Yeah.
Well, except I think they do in Tiburon. We've gotten it for years and we don't pay for anything that I'm aware of. Maybe that policy's changed, but
Okay.
I think it was mailed free to the peninsula. Does the Flume software allow for efficiency calculations like the estimator? Does it come back with that information saying you're using X gallons per person per day?
Yes.
Not per person, by household. You can figure it out pretty easily, Larry. I mean, you get your.
Okay, can you input it? Can you input the number of people so that it does the?
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would make sense to me they would. I'm just curious if that's part of the reason everyone hasn't gone to the estimator is that they may already have the information. The Flume users, which are probably the most incented folks to pay attention to that stuff because they're already invested in the Flume. Are we also still running with that 2/3 of them aren't no longer reporting the Flumes? Give or take.
Yeah, Carrie maybe could give an update on this. We actually just did a postcard mailer recently to about 1,000 households to remind them, hey, we're noticing your Flume device is offline. And so I haven't heard the outcomes of that. That just recently got mailed.
Yeah, because that's a no cost thing, right? They just hook into the home.
Yeah, correct. And maybe at a future meeting, we can report out on,
That would be great.
yeah, what the response was on that postcard that went out. That was something we did in partnership with Flume.
Chris's story would make Phil Sauter proud. I mean, this guy is a wonderful man and a retiree and on, you know, some level of fixed income. And he was following his water bills and he's like, oh my, what do we do? And when I put him in touch with you guys, you were on it and he saved, I think, literally several $1,000s that he did not realize he was spending, and he didn't realize that he could do something about it. He thought that there was just no chance. It was all on us. what are we doing? And then he realized with a little bit of effort, he could save a lot of water, he could save a lot of money, and it's a turnaround. And I got to imagine there are a lot of other Chris's out there. So, and I know there's another one on your way for another story. So
Yes.
these are very impactful
Yeah.
success stories.
Yeah, and thank you to Director Smith for connecting us with Chris. And it's actually a good reminder that if any of the directors ever have come in contact with customers who are excited to share their story, we would love to talk to them and feature them in one of our upcoming spots. So thank you. All right, so now we'll look ahead at our summer outreach plans. And so this is first, I should say that this is not comprehensive of everything we're doing this summer for water efficiency, but we did just want to hit on a few of the bigger planned projects. But first, of course, looking to promote our turf replacement and other outdoor efficiency rebates. We're going full outdoors now. We've already begun that work. But as we kind of look at, what's our big next step, we do want to do another postcard mailer. We want to work with the water efficiency team to really find out what makes the most sense for that list. We're talking about historically higher summer water users, but we do have this data on our opportunity zone customers as well. And so we want to try to figure out what's the sweet spot for the next mailer. And be thoughtful about that. And we also want to be thoughtful about what that messaging is. This time around, we think sharing a customer success story, showing some real before and after pictures in the visuals that we use is going to be the way to go. We're seeing really great response from the customer success stories. So we want to see if that could work in a postcard format or some kind of mailer format. And then we want to do another round of digital ads targeting our higher water users. And again, focusing on outdoor efficiency and our turf replacement program specifically. This time around, so our digital ad services that we use, they also can do the same thing with PSAs. And instead of serving, the visual ad, they're serving on audio advertisements on streaming services. So podcasts, Spotify, Pandora. And really they'll send it to wherever the user is or wherever they're listening. And so we haven't worked with PSAs on streaming services before and are interested to give that a try and see how it goes. And then our Marin County Fair plans are coming along, and we will have the opportunity to utilize some mini billboards at that event. There's 6 different water stations throughout the event that us and North Marin Water District are sponsoring in partnership. And they have these big signage displays that allow us to do some creative messaging. And so we're going to align with North Marin Water District, where we have programs that are similar. They have a turf replacement program. We have one. And so we're going to align on messaging there and find ways to get customers through QR codes to those sites and let them know about our rebate programs.
Have we considered, has it hit me that we could have a potential incentivized rebate for grass replacement for the fair? Maybe that's even an easier thing to do. Say, sign up during this period of time. Are we having people there full-time?
We will have staff, North Marin Water District and Marin Water will have staff each day of the fair during peak hours.
There'll be a table.
Not a table. It's a little bit unique. We will have an interactive home display. I shared that at the last committee meeting. Yeah. And so really it's kind of a walk and talk environment to help people as they're self-guiding through that display, answer questions, but certainly to talk up programs as well. But we're not actually allowed to distribute any paper materials at the event. It's a request of the fair just for sustainable practice.
But you could have a QR code.
We could. Yes. Yeah. We intend to use QR codes.
If we had a QR code that said, if you register now for this, you get an extra $1 a square foot or something like that.
I think, Larry, that's a great idea. Or or if we have some Flume devices that we could give out, that might be like you like sign up now and you'll be in a raffle to get a free Flume device. I like the idea of incentivizing people to put their name in the hat.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, we could put some thought around that. There may be some potential with this rain barrel item that I'm about to get in. We were thinking of doing this at our other events this summer. Not this one. It's actually the next slide, but hold that thought.
That's a good idea too.
Yeah. So sorry, am I good to move on to rain barrels? Okay. So we have a couple different rain barrel programs that we're launching this summer, which, talking about the rain in the summer can be a little bit unusual, but the timing of these rolling out is what it is. And, it actually makes a lot of sense to plan your rainwater catchment system so it's ready when it does start raining next season. And so first, we do have an enhanced rain barrel rebate, and Carrie's been in front of the board previously about this item. But this is an increase to our existing rain barrel rebate, and it's thanks to the Marin County Stormwater Pollution Prevention Program. Both us and North Marin Water District are receiving additional funds so we can bump up our rebate. So the rebate for rain barrels is going to 75 cents per gallon. And that was previously 50 cents. So it's up a quarter per gallon. And then it's also the max is doubling. So it's going to $2,000 max per customer. Previously it was at $1,000. And so beginning next week, we will be doing joint publicity efforts with North Marin Water District around this increased incentive. So we have a news release planned, and that one is actually authored by all three agencies, North Marin Water District, as well as the Marin County Stormwater Pollution Prevention Program. And then we have another Marin Living advertorial plan to announce this program or this increased rebate. And we have social media planned, and then it'll be featured in our June e-news as well. And so that's really just the plans to get this launched, and it's kind of just reinvigorating our rain barrel outreach. And then the second program is this. It's going to be a pilot. It's a DIY recycled rain barrel giveaway. EO Products, it's essential oil products company based in San Rafael. They are a sustainably practicing company and are always trying to find ways to reuse the materials used in their daily operation. They use these barrels in their operation and are donating them to the district so we can turn around and give them away to customers so that they can create their own DIY rain barrel. And I say create their own because it comes just as a storage barrel, and they do have to buy a converter kit or materials to then properly assemble it as a rainwater catchment system.
And clean?
They will arrive to us clean. And yes, we are putting some information about the barrels. They're used to store coconut oil. Yeah, coconut oil in them, but we have checked to make sure that these are suitable to give away, but they will arrive to us cleaned out. Yes, there won't be any material in them.
Labels.
No labels, yeah.
And how large are the barrels?
55 gallon.
Okay, wow, that's fantastic. That's so cool.
Yeah. And cool because we're not going to limit the number that folks can take. So if they wanted to have multiple barrels connected to their system, that could be an option. We're using an online form system for people to sign up. We're actually launching this during the Eco-Friendly Garden Tour, which is this weekend. And so that'll be where we first promote it. We'll have them on display with signage. Our staff are prepared to talk about them at the 3 locations that we have garden sites participating as part of the tour. There's sites in Sonoma and Marin. And so people will be invited to apply through a quick online registration form, and then we will select names once a month and then notify those of the day and time, and we'll have a pickup event where folks can come to one of our facilities at the district and pick up their barrel. And they'll get some instructions on that, and then also some instructions and guidance on how to assemble their barrel.
Yeah,
Um,
they don't fit in a car. They're a lot bigger than they look.
Yeah, so we've got some materials prepared to help explain what it is and what so we can manage expectations and preparations around that pickup. So we're planning to pilot this through August and then reevaluate how things go. EO Products plans to deliver the barrels to us each month. And it could be anywhere from 50 to 100. So we're going to kind of play it by ear and also see the interest and see how many barrels people are requesting at a time. But we are excited to get this going. And so once we do the soft launch at the Eco-Friendly Garden Tour, the following week, we'll announce it on all of our digital channels as well and open the online registration for anyone to apply to receive the barrel.
There might be a multi-dimensional story for you with EO. They're a fantastic company. Susan Griffin Black started it here, I think in Corte Madera across the street. Manufacturing's here, they're local, they're sustainable through and through with how they handle their products and their ingredients. But they're also an industrial customer of ours, one of the larger ones, and they've been extremely thoughtful about how to avoid water waste. So in addition to the rainwater catchment program that they're doing here, they've done some very creative work on trying to use less water in their products, which are mostly made of water, right? They just add some fragrances and cleaning efforts. So great company, but that might be another story for you.
Yeah, we've approached them about a customer success story opportunity too. So trying to see if that works out. All right. Any other questions on barrels? Oh, and going back, sorry, coming full circle to the fair idea, there could be opportunity here to encourage signups at the fair for the barrel giveaway as well. So thank you for that mention.
Yeah, you surely should have some of them sitting at the display.
Yeah.
People can touch them.
Yeah, we will have an outdoor component to the interactive home display. And so we can definitely, that's a no-brainer. We can build that in.
Would we have any way of requiring the kit, the conversion kit? Because, this is the issue with East Nile virus and all those mosquitoes and things. It's pretty essential that they have the screens and stuff on these, not just 55 gallons of open.
Yeah, all of our guidance definitely talks about those requirements. We actually, so this rainwater, there's a screenshot of it here, the rainwater catchment page. We just built it's marinwater.org/catch the rain. That page, we just published it in the last week. It has a lot of great information on it with guidance. We give links and suggestions on where to find different kits and resources from various vendors. We have a number of different FAQs, and we're going to continue to grow that as things come up. We figure we imagine that the page will evolve and change. And so, but happy to say we have pretty good resource put together here, and lots of thanks to Carrie's team for helping us with their expertise to get that together too.
How much are the kits? Maybe we should consider giving the kits with the barrels. I think this is a very serious issue. Vector control is a significant problem. And if the people just take the drums and don't follow through, the drums are they're a liability to the public. I don't know if there's too much a legal liability, but there's definitely a public health liability of having them unprotected. So that's what I'm kind of afraid of is, they get halfway, but they don't finish. And maybe we should just do the $5 thing and get them ready to go.
Okay. I think, yeah.
Yeah, it's an important point, but are we thinking that the kit would address the ability of mosquitoes to access?
What I assume the kit is, what I've seen are screens that go over the inlets.
I see. Right.
Yeah.
If I may, so the barrels come with plugs. They're not open top. You actually can't take the top off. So
No.
until someone actually purchases a kit and drills the holes and it does all the attachments, right? There's no way for the water to
No,
get
but there's
into
bung holes
right.
on the
Exactly.
top. There's
Yep.
two 2-inch bung holes.
Exactly. So they're not like the open ones that have an open
No,
screen.
the 17Es, but they still have two openings.
which are closed when we provide it to them,
Right, but they come right out.
which would imply they were starting to make their gray water system, right? I mean,
Well, or the liability, depending on how you look at it. You know, you open them and let it sit there, and then you have the problem. So, you know,
Yeah. One thing I think to mention, so like on our website, we've kind of presented these two opportunities because we're introducing a rebate and free barrel giveaway at the same time and trying to keep all that straight. But it's really, one is kind of for the customer who wants to do more on their own, follow the instructions and the guidance given to build the rain catchment system. And the rebate is really for the person who doesn't want to take as much of a DIY approach, though they still have to take some steps to obviously install to their downspout system at their house. But we are going to make it clear on the DIY giveaway that you can't double dip and then go back to get the rebate as well. And I just want to make that clear to the board. Yeah. And we'll be making that clear to customers too.
before we post these, be sure you correct North Marin's name there in the second one.
Yes, thank you. All right, and then looking ahead to our community events. Well, not just looking ahead because we've completed some. It's been a busy season already. And just a reminder, this year we're really trying to focus on participating in events where it's low barrier for our customers to attend and participate, where we feel like we're reaching our customers, in our service area, and that we make sure that we're getting around to a diverse kind of area, all the areas of our service area. So we're not missing different communities. And so this list will continue to grow. We're filled out here for all of the summer pretty much. And just that last event, Marin Green Home Tour, which is a virtual event actually, is in October, but we still have a lot of fall events that we know are to come. But we've participated in a few Earth Day events already. Both of those went well. They're events we participated in previously, always have good attendance, great engagement. It's really, attendees, especially at Earth Day Mill Valley, they're looking for ways to be more sustainable in their home, water efficient. And so that's always been a good event for us. And then we have the eco-friendly garden tour coming up this weekend, as I mentioned, and we'll have staff at 3 different sites. We'll be promoting our new rain barrel incentive as well as all of our other efficiency programs. And then our Fairfax Festival and Parade, that's actually a 2-day event. Another one we've been to previously. It feels like the whole town comes out to that event. Really good turnout and always really good engagement as well. And then, as you can see, several other events coming up this summer. The Marin County Fair, that'll be a 5-day event. So that's going to keep us busy. And there's definitely a lot of logistics and coordination with that. And we're working with North Marin Water District and the fair organizers to prepare our materials for that event, as well as our plan for engagement. And
Where are the hydrating stations going?
I don't know the exact locations yet, but I can certainly share that once they've been provided. Yeah, we just got the specs on the actual stations themselves the other day.
Are they chilled,
Um,
plugged in?
they are similar to our water station where they hook up to a spigot. Yeah, and-
Are they?
and I don't believe they're chilled. No. Yeah,
The
I
reason
don't
I
believe
ask
so.
is that it was probably something that would be very heavily used if it were chilled. And the Haas, the Berkeley folks that make them, they're pretty nice units, the ones they have with like the airport, where you shove it in and it counts the bottles.
Yeah. Yes, I'm not aware. I could double check. But they're the fairs. They have a vendor that they coordinate with to bring them out. We're simply providing the signage that'll go on them. Yeah. All right.
Adrian, in the
yeah.
fall, there is a San Anselmo Festival and Parade as well. But
Right.
I think it's in September. So maybe we should keep an eye on that one too.
Yeah, definitely. And if there's any others like that are bigger, that would be great.
So I was talking to Adrian about this. I mean, right, in the spring, summer in Marin, there's almost unlimited opportunities for a range of events. And, you know, it's a good discussion. We'll take a look at that. And we do want interest from the board. At the same time, staff learns which ones are kind of winners and really hitting the mark. So maybe next year, the Ross Garden Walk, we wouldn't do based on the ROI. So it's a constant kind of dynamic to try and figure out where we get the best return.
Thanks, Ben. All right. And then next steps. So we'll be launching our summer campaigns that I've shared here today. We'll be monitoring those campaigns as well as those that are currently running. We're going to assess our performance. We'll continue to make necessary adjustments to prepare for next season's campaigns as we have for the upcoming season. And then we'll be staffing our summer outreach events and connecting with our customers face to face. And then we'll be back to provide progress to the board at our future meetings. Any questions?
A comment. At the shopping center next door, Ford took the incentive to have Ford Lightnings there, their pickup trucks. Like they had I don't know, 6 of them. There may be something there. They just took the back sidewalk on the freeway side. They had in the middle of the shopping center, they had this thing set up with they had maybe 6 people there and the vehicles, which I found interesting. And they put the pressure squeeze on. You want to drive one? You know, they're here to drive. I don't care about that part, but what I do think is perhaps there's a benefit there that if Ford thought it was important enough location to have that kind of, I mean, it must have cost them 20 grand to do something like that. That maybe that's something we should think about, is some kind of sidewalk in the shopping centers or at key markets to push the whole thing, especially about the grass, because, you know, people are in the mood when they're in the mood. And, you know, I'm not hung up one way or the other on the idea, but it's something to think about.
Thank you.
Great. Any other board comments or questions?
I just had a quick question on the incentives for the barrels.
Mhm.
Those are dollars coming from us, like the up to $2,000.
Yeah, so it's our funds as well as funding that's contributed from Mixed Op. Sorry, I'm confirming with Carrie
Right.
on the breakdown. Yeah.
We just received that program from the county stormwater.
Yeah. And so they are providing $20,000, which is allowing us to do this increase to the rebate.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious how you think about it, given that these barrels get used. I mean, it's great for people to do it. I'm just wondering, for an investment purpose from us, is it more marketing? Because the return on those dollars for water savings isn't enormous, right? If people use them 5 times a year, it's still.
Talking about 2 different things here,
Yeah.
Ted.
Okay.
What the incentive is for a catchment, not for barrels. You couldn't spend $2,000 on barrels. I mean, you'd fill your lot with barrels.
Yeah.
They're only about $20.
Okay. Got it.
They're talking about building something like a
Okay.
cistern.
Is there more question there? Sorry.
What's the return on investment in that money?
Yeah, that's a little bit more of a programmatic question than an outreach question. So I would probably defer to Carrie to
It
speak
seems
to
to-
that.
Generally, I mean, we have looked at it. It's not relatively favorable relative to kind of other incentives. I do think what you said, kind of marketing, I think about it like connections with the customers, you know, and a lot of it is that, even cap audits, right? You do 300 cap audits a year, 60,000 customers, 300 years, 400 years later, we get through them all. So that's not really what it's about. It's just about reinforcing the overall message, having someone set up rain barrels, having others see it, turf replacement over here, maintaining the overall discussion of conservation and water use.
Got it. So how much do we spend on that about? What's our budget to
Our
spend on that?
budget for the incentive for rain barrels, probably pretty small. Do you know, Carrie, offhand?
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I'm thinking about your question. It's interesting. The ROI is actually negative because it's costing us it's benefiting us by not selling water. It's kind of a little tricky on the ROI concept. Yeah.
Okay, I think we can open it up to public comments.
Yes, we have 3 so far. Phil Sauter, Jack, and then Ed Jameson.
Thank you for a really great presentation. I'm really enjoying the waterfront and all the success stories that we see every couple of months. It's a great piece. I wish a lot more people would take the time to read it. Last week, I watched an episode of Bay Area Bountiful that was on the PBS station in Cotati. The episode included 3 stories on North Bay residents who re-landscaped their homes with water-saving native plants, as well as a segment on the landscape designers who helped them. I thought how much impact it must have for North Bay residents to see their neighbors taking practical steps to enhance their landscapes, and in one case to show how the family's children were enjoying the new play areas that appeared in their yards. I know that we have cooperative relations with adjacent water districts, and while I don't think Marin currently has a very robust community channel, Cotati does. If we're not already providing Marin success stories to KRCB, I'd like to suggest that we do. And if we are providing such content, I'd like to suggest we do more. In addition to the stories in the bi-monthly flyer, in Woodacre, we have a conservation garden that we planted 15 years ago with the help of Dan Carney, who was the district's conservation specialist at the time. It's all water saving native plants. It might be of interest to the communication team if you're looking to tell a story of practical ways to conserve water and still have an enjoyable and attractive public garden space. And if you're interested, I can put you in touch with Woodacre Garden Club members who created and maintain the garden. The other thing that really made this morning well worth the drive over the hill to come here is all the focus on numbers and specifics and objectives. And it really feels good to hear that. It kind of makes me long for kind of a one-page document to say, how could we save 1 million gallons daily in conservation within the next year or within the next 2 years? I know we have a 4 million gallon bogey for 2045. And I'm looking to celebrate my 100th birthday, acknowledging that milestone. And we've got, I think, another 800,000.
You don't look that old.
Oh, God. I think we have another 800,000 planned for 2030. Or maybe it's 2035. That's about 800,000 gallons a day. I'd like to see just a one-page document. What would it take if we wanted to save 1 million gallons a day within the next 18 months? What would it take? And as Director Russell talks about, I know we don't want to spend $300 million on a conveyance pipe, but what would it take us $300 million to save that 1 million gallons? Or could we do it quicker? I'd just like to see that as an exercise. Thank you.
Jack, please.
I thought it was worthwhile to mention, there is one other approach to truly reaching as many constituents as humanly possible about all these conservation efforts. And that would be to directly cold call every constituent, say, who has a lawn, and see if they want to do the turf replacement. And people would be more likely to respond to that than an email or any of these basic ads. And those cold calls wouldn't even take that much time. I mean, if you can say cold call 100 people an hour, then to cold call however many households there are with lawns would probably only take a couple hundred hours, and then following up overtime takes small amounts of time, but it just doesn't seem all that time consuming and seems more effective than sending out these letters, and it would in theory also be free.
Thank you. Ed, please.
Yes, at a cost of $78,000 an acre foot, I believe enhancing the rain barrel rebates is pointless. This is not an effective program, inappropriate for our climate. The district's recent bill stuffers and e-news emails have been really attention-getting, and I believe will be a very effective way to accomplish conservation savings, focusing customers' attention on the district's incentives for its various programs. And the usability of the district's revised website has been hugely improved. Overall, a really great job by the communications team. Thank you.
Thank you. There are no further speakers.
Thanks, Terry. We'll move then to agenda item 5, which is our upcoming meeting. The next Communications and Water Efficiency Committee meeting and special board meeting is on August 21st, 2024. And with that, this meeting is adjourned.